Chapter 1. The Final Raid, February 22, 2026. Before sunrise, the mountains of Tapalpa, Jalisco, are silent. The cold air hangs over pine-covered hills. Then the silence breaks. Military helicopters cut through the sky. Convoys of armored vehicles move along narrow mountain roads. Thousands of Mexican Army Special Forces and National Guard units surround a remote property hidden deep in the forest. Inside that compound is one of the most hunted men in the world. A man with a $15 million US bounty on his head. A man accused of flooding the United States with fentanyl and methamphetamine. A man whose organization had spread across dozens of countries. Gunfire erupts. The confrontation is immediate and intense. Elite forces advance under heavy resistance. Explosions echo through the hills. Several armed men fall in the first exchange. Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, known globally as El Mencho, attempts to escape into wooded terrain with close bodyguards. The firefight continues among trees and rocky slopes, the end of the operation. The most powerful cartel leader in Mexico is dead, but to understand how this moment happened, the story must go back decades. Chapter 2. A child of Tierra Caliente, Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes was born on July 17, 1966. In Culutitlan, near Naranjo de Chila in Aguililla, Michoacán. Aguililla is a poor, isolated municipality that has long been associated with cartel activity. There were few industries and limited opportunity. Agriculture dominated the region. Growing up, Nemesio worked as a farmhand and avocado picker. He was not born into wealth or criminal royalty. He was born into poverty. In the 1990s, he moved to the United States and became involved in drug trafficking. In 1994, he was convicted in California for conspiracy to distribute heroin and served 3 years in prison. After completing his sentence, he was deported to Mexico. That deportation marked the beginning of his ascent. Chapter 3. Learning the system. Back in Mexico in the late 1990s, he chose not to return to farming. Instead, he entered the criminal world more deeply. He became chief of hitmen for the Milenio Cartel and later worked within operations connected to the Sinaloa Cartel. He gained a reputation for discipline, loyalty, and strategic thinking. In 1996, he married Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia, linking himself to the Valencia family known as Los Quines. This alliance provided access to financial networks and money laundering operations. The combination of enforcement strength and financial expertise would later become a defining advantage. He worked under figures such as Armando Valencia Cornelio and Ignacio Coronel Villarreal, gaining insight into trafficking logistics, financial management, and cartel politics. For years, he remained patient, observing and learning. Chapter 4. Building his own power base. By the mid-2000s, Nemesio Oseguera was no longer just an enforcer taking orders. He was quietly building something inside the organization: loyalty. While senior leaders focused on profits and rivalries, he focused on people. He recruited young gunmen from rural towns across Jalisco and Michoacán with few options, men loyal to whoever gave them income and protection. Instead of relying only on existing Milenio structures, he began forming tight operational cells that answered directly to him. He rewarded loyalty aggressively, protection for families, steady income, weapons, status, but betrayal was dealt with swiftly. Unlike older cartel bosses who relied on flashy displays of wealth and large convoys, he preferred smaller disciplined units, quick response teams, structured command, clear chains of authority. He also strengthened relationships with local police and municipal officials, understanding that territory was not controlled by violence alone, it was controlled by influence. Gradually, something subtle but powerful happened. Inside the Milenio Cartel, there was the official leadership. And then there was the network loyal to El Mencho. He did not challenge his bosses openly. He did not make dramatic moves. Instead, he embedded himself into the operational core of the organization. He understood something critical. Cartels collapse from leadership to capitation. But the man who controls the soldiers controls the future. Within hours of El Mencho's death, Mexico felt the shockwave. In Jalisco, burning trucks blocked highways. Masked gunmen set vehicles on fire, turning major roads into walls of smoke. In Guadalajara and nearby towns, businesses shut their doors as rumors spread faster than official statements. Security forces rushed to contain coordinated attacks across multiple states. By the time instability hit in 2009 and 2010, he was ready. He did not need permission to rise. He already had the structure. When the Milenio cartel fractured, many commanders scrambled to pick sides. El Mencho did not scramble, he consolidated. What looked like sudden power was actually years of preparation. The foundation for CJNG was not built in 2010, it was built quietly, years earlier, inside the system. And when the old order broke, he stepped forward not as a replacement, but as the only man already positioned to take control. Chapter 5. The collapse that created opportunity. Between 2009 and 2010, major shifts occurred in Mexico's criminal landscape. High-profile arrests and killings destabilized existing power structures. The Milenio cartel fractured after key leadership losses. The organization split into factions known as Los Torcidos and La Resistencia. Violence erupted as both sides fought for controlled, in moments of instability. Some leaders disappear. Others rise. That El Mencho consolidated Los Torcidos, reorganized its structure, and transformed it into the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generation, CJNG. The name signaled reinvention. A new generation. A new approach that he focused on rapid expansion, aggressive recruitment, and direct confrontation with rivals. CJNG pushed into neighboring states and confronted established cartels, including the Zetas and the Knights Templar, within a few years. CJNG evolved from a regional faction into a dominant national force. Chapter 6. The structure of power was not built solely on violence. It was structured with operational clarity. The organization invested heavily in methamphetamine production labs across western Mexico. It expanded cocaine supply relationships with South American producers. It pivoted early into fentanyl manufacturing and trafficking, a synthetic opioid that required smaller production volumes, but generated massive profit margins. By 2019, U.S. authorities estimated that CJNG was responsible for a substantial share of narcotics entering the United States. The group developed contacts in more than 40 countries. Logistics networks extended across North America, Central America, South America, Asia, and parts of Europe and Australia. Money laundering operations became central. Businesses such as restaurants, tequila brands, real estate ventures, construction companies, and shell corporations were used to move and disguise profits. Family members were allegedly involved in managing financial structures that converted illicit proceeds into legitimate seeming assets. The organization functioned with defined hierarchies, regional cells, and rapid response enforcement units. Chapter 7. The strategy of fear. CJNG gained international notoriety for its confrontational tactics. The group directly attacked security forces. In 2015, cartel gunmen shot down a military helicopter using heavy weaponry. The organization reportedly utilized armored vehicles, improvised explosive devices, and drones equipped with explosives. Assassination attempts targeted officials at multiple levels. Public attacks were designed to project strength and deter opposition. Reports accused the organization of using deceptive recruitment tactics and punishing defectors severely. The strategy was psychological as much as physical. Public displays of force created fear. Fear discouraged resistance. Control followed. Chapter 8. At the end of $1 billion empire, at its peak, U.S. security analysts estimated CJNG generated between $8 and $12 billion annually, making it one of the most profitable criminal organizations in the world. Financial modeling suggests the cartel likely controlled $2 to $4 billion in total assets, while El Mencho himself is believed to have exercised command over wealth in the billion-dollar range. Not public riches, not visible luxury, but control over a vast underground economy. For years, he avoided capture by limiting exposure and restricting access to his inner circle. In early 2026, intelligence units reportedly narrowed their search after monitoring movements linked to a close associate. Surveillance activity around a remote property in Tapalpa, Jalisco raised suspicion. After confirming patterns consistent with high-level protection, federal authorities authorized a coordinated operation. Before sunrise on February 22, 2026, Mexican Army Special Forces and National Guard units surrounded the mountainous location. As forces advanced, armed guards opened fire. A firefight erupted. Several gunmen were killed in the exchange. El Mencho reportedly attempted to flee toward wooded terrain behind the property with bodyguards. Security forces pursued and engaged. He was fatally wounded during the confrontation. He was 59 years old. The man who once controlled a billion-dollar criminal empire died in a remote mountain clearing. But while the leader fell, the financial structure he commanded did not disappear overnight. Because in organized crime, eliminating a man does not automatically eliminate the system. And somewhere within that system, the next chapter is already forming.